Okay, so first things first, welcome to the explicit version of this podcast. Yes, I had to check the explicit box when I publish this because apparently I can't talk about real life without dropping F bombs like confetti. And my mom, your mom, is probably gonna have some thoughts about this, but you know what? The old me would have kept it squeaky clean, would have been like, oh, be practical. Think about your brand. Think about your reputation. And that right there, that's not being practical. It's being scared shitless of what other people will think of you if you show up as your real self. And I'm done doing that. Okay, so today we're going to talk about dreaming. See, my husband calls me a dreamer and not in the cute way. I think he means it in the cute way, but he does it more in the, when I suggest we should take the kids to Europe or honestly anything that requires a ton of work, money, or time that we don't have. He says, "There goes my dreamer wife again," or "There you go dreaming again," which he's meaning as a compliment in full transparency, but it doesn't feel like that to me. And it makes me think, what's the actual difference between being a dreamer and being a visionary? Because I think it's just whether people think your ideas are worth listening to. Like Steve Jobs is a visionary. But I think if Steve Jobs had been a 40-something mom from Minnesota suggesting that we build a computer in the garage, everyone would have been like, okay, Karen, maybe focus on getting the laundry done first. Because here's what I've been realizing about myself, and maybe you do this too. We've gotten really, really good at talking ourselves out of things we want by pretending we're being smart about it. Like this morning, I was scrolling Instagram, which is what I do every morning. Don't come for me. And I see this post. It's some woman on an actual mountaintop, because of course she is, arms spread wide, like she's about to take flight. And the caption was something about living your authentic life, following your dreams. And I literally said out loud, fuck off. My 9-year-old overheard it from the next room. Oops, but honestly, it was worth it. That woman can take her mountain pose and shove it. But here's the thing that I really started to think about after my response. Why did that post make me so irrationally angry? Genuinely mad. She wasn't personally attacking me. She doesn't even know me. She was just posting a picture of herself looking happy on a mountain. And I love mountains. It should make me happy too. And I think it's because part of me wanted that. I wanted to feel that free, that bold, that confident in my life choices. I wanted to feel like my life is Instagram worthy. But the second I had that thought, my brain immediately went into defense mode. Yeah, but that's easy when you don't have a mortgage. Must be nice to have that kind of flexibility when you're not tied to school schedules and baseball practice. Some of us have actual responsibilities, mountain lady. And then I caught myself. I was doing it to her. I was taking someone else's moment of joy, and I was immediately explaining why it wasn't realistic. And I realized I do this shit to myself all the time, just more quietly. I'll have a spark of an idea, and before I even fully form the thought, I'm already explaining why it won't work. Last week, I was driving past this empty building downtown in our little town that I live in, and just for a second, I imagined what it would be like to open a women's co-working space, somewhere where women could actually work without some dude mansplaining their business to them. Maybe do events or offer free space to women starting nonprofits or just beginning their entrepreneurial journey, a pay what you can model so money isn't the barrier. But immediately, my brain was like, you don't know shit about commercial real estate or business license. Plus, where the fuck would you get the startup money? What about your current job? What about the kids' schedules? What if no one comes? And just like that, the dream died before it even had chance to breathe. And I probably would have just filed that away as another random daydream, except something happened this week with my 12-year-old that made me realize how fucked up this pattern actually is. So he comes to me with this plan. He wants to build a putting green in our yard, a small one, but he'd drawn out these careful plans in his little notebook. He'd figured the whole thing out. He had genuine vision. And our yard is my husband's domain. So my son asks permission and he gets the thumbs up and we start planning. He and I are doing research or picking materials. I'm even asking ChatGPT about soil compaction because I have no fucking idea what I'm doing. And my son is so excited he can barely sit still. So we go back to my husband with everything we figured out. And suddenly, looking at the full scope, he went from sure to, I'm not so sure about this. Rightfully so. It was a lot of work. And in that moment, I watched my kid's whole face fall. Those carefully drawn out plans suddenly just felt stupid, unrealistic, instead of exciting. And look, my husband is not the dream crusher here. He's not sitting around plotting ways to disappoint my son or me. The project would have required a ton of work, a lot of time, a lot of weekends that we'd rather be spending doing literally anything else than digging up perfectly good grass to install fake grass so our kid can practice putting. But watching my son's excitement get crushed by a big dose of reality just hit me in a way I wasn't expecting, because I recognized something in that moment that made me deeply uncomfortable. I do the exact same thing to myself all the fucking time. I have an idea, I get excited about it, I start planning it out, and then I immediately start explaining why it's not practical, why it's too much work, why I should probably be grateful for what I have instead of wanting more, why it's not possible, why I'm not qualified. But you know what's fucked up? I wasn't always like this. When I was little, my dad and I used to build things together. He's this incredible craftsman. He can literally build anything. And he would let me come up with these completely ridiculous projects. I'd want to build a custom playhouse that matched our big house, or a platform bed that looked way cooler than anything you could buy at a store, or whatever insane thing my brain came up with. And then instead of explaining why it wouldn't work, he'd sit down with me and he'd help me draw actual plans, even when my architectural skills were questionable at best. And my drawings looked like, I don't know, a drunk person tried to sketch a house during an earthquake. And of course, the plans would evolve and they would change based on reality. And then we'd go to the lumberyard and I'd help him pick out the wood and the screws and all the mysterious hardware that apparently makes things stay together. And we'd spend weekends in the garage and he's patiently showing me how to use tools. And I mostly just held things, tried not to injure myself. I had a very important job of sweeping up the sawdust that fell underneath the table saw. And I think that's where I get my dreamer gene. That belief that ideas are worth exploring, that the fun part is imagining what could be possible before you start worrying about how to make it happen. He didn't start with, well, that's going to be expensive or that's going to take a lot of time. He started with, what would that look like? And then we figured out how to make it happen. So here's what I'm thinking. What if we gave ourselves permission to dream first and worry about the logistics later? Not throw practicality out the window completely, but what if we just let our dreams breathe a little before we started suffocating them with all the reasons they won't work? What if we have an idea, we spend time thinking about what it would look like if it were fucking amazing, what it would feel like, what would change, and then, only then, do we start asking practical questions? Because here's what I'm learning. There's actual energy in the dreaming. There's joy in imagining. And when you start from that place, you come up with different solutions than when you start from fear. Maybe being a dreamer isn't something I need to apologize for. Maybe that's exactly what the world needs more of. My son's golf project, we ended up doing a tiny, less version of it, and he's happy with it. But I keep wondering what would have happened if we started with, what would the most amazing version look like? And gotten excited about that first. I think I want to give my dreams more space to breathe. I want to let myself get excited about possibilities before I start calculating all the problems, before I start bracing myself for disappointment. I'm a dreamer, or I want to be a dreamer. I want to believe that more is possible. And instead of apologizing for that, I want to see what becomes possible when I actually lean into it. And how might that change your life? How might that evolve what you believe is possible for you if you just gave that possibility room to breathe before you told yourself it wasn't possible or all the reasons why it can't be possible? And I get it. I'm not talking or encouraging people to like quit their jobs and start a business. Like maybe that is your dream. And if so, let it breathe. But your dream doesn't have to be a big dream. It can be a little dream. It can be applying for that job that you've been eyeing for a while. It can be making a tough choice for your family. And instead of shutting it down before you even explore it, what if you looked at it, fully looked at it, and asked the question, if I leaned into this, what would it be like? How can I make this fucking amazing? So, if you're realizing that you've been shutting down your own ideas before you even get started, you're just not alone. I feel like that's how we're wired. What have you been calling impractical lately? What dream have you filed under maybe someday? And honestly, if you want to be around women who ask, how might this work? Instead of, why won't this work? Think about joining the Wired Collective. It's launching in August, and I'll put the link in the show notes. Early access, 30 days free. It's just going to be a community of women who want to build their dreams instead of just talking about them. And that in and of itself was a dream that I let breathe. Look, I don't know what dreams you've been explaining away, but maybe it's time to stop asking, what if it doesn't work? And start asking, what if it does? Or what would need to be true for it to work? Maybe it's time for all of us women to be a little less sensible and a little more curious about what might be possible. I'm going to try. I'm going to put that co-working dream on my vision board. I don't really have a vision board, but my, pretend vision board. I'm going to launch it into the world and I'm going to let it breathe. In fact, maybe somebody listening to this podcast wants to help me make that dream become a reality. And if so, I want to hear from you. Let's create space for more belief, more dreaming, more possibility in our life. And let's not apologize for those dreams. Let's let them breathe and see what happens, not just in our lives, but in the world when we do.